Something strange is happening. Millions of people are exhausted without doing anything particularly exhausting. They sleep, they eat, they sit, they scroll. And yet, by noon, they already want the day to end. Not because they're lazy, not because they're weak, but because existing itself feels heavy. And if you've been feeling that way lately, you might think you know why. Stress, burnout, too much work, too many responsibilities, maybe. But what if that's not the real reason? What if the thing that's draining you isn't what you're doing, but the way you're living? Think about your day. You wake up and immediately enter someone else's world. Notifications, messages, news, videos, opinions, arguments. Before you've even had a chance to hear your own thoughts, thousands of other voices are already inside your head. And here's the strange part. This feels normal. In fact, it feels so normal that most people never question it. But imagine explaining this lifestyle to someone from 200 years ago. You carry a device in your pocket that constantly interrupts your attention. Thousands of strangers compete for your focus every day. You consume more information in a single week than your ancestors might have encountered in months. And somehow, you're expected to function like a perfectly healthy human being. Of course you're tired. The surprising question isn't why you're exhausted. The surprising question is why you're functioning at all. But here's where things get interesting. Most people assume exhaustion comes from effort, too much work, too much pressure, too many obligations. Yet many people feel exhausted on days when they barely do anything. Have you ever spent an entire weekend resting, only to feel just as drained on Sunday night? Why? Because not all exhaustion comes from action. Some exhaustion comes from friction. The friction of constantly switching your attention. The friction of trying to be everywhere at once. The friction of becoming someone different for every audience in your life. One version of you for work. One for friends. One for family. One for social media. One for the future you're trying to become. Eventually, you stop living. You start performing. And performance is exhausting. Even when you're good at it. Especially when you're good at it. Think about how often you're truly alone with your own mind. Not distracted, not entertained, not consuming, just present. For most people, the answer is almost never. The moment boredom appears, they reach for something. A phone, a video, music, a podcast, anything to fill the silence. But here's a question nobody asks. What if boredom wasn't the enemy? What if boredom was the doorway? For most of human history, people experienced long stretches of silence, walking, waiting, working, thinking. Their minds had room to wander, room to process, room to make sense of life. Today, silence has become a luxury, and your brain is paying the price. Because something strange happens when every empty moment gets filled. You lose contact with yourself, not dramatically, not overnight, slowly, quietly, one distraction at a time. And then one day, you wake up feeling disconnected from your own life. You still go through the motions. You still complete tasks. You still show up. But something feels missing, like you're watching your life instead of living it. And that's when many people make a mistake. They assume they need more motivation, more discipline, more productivity, more goals. So they push harder, wake up earlier, work longer, optimize everything. But imagine trying to cure dehydration by running faster. That's what many people are doing. They're treating exhaustion as a productivity problem when it's actually a meaning problem, because humans can endure incredible hardship when something feels meaningful. Parents wake up countless nights for their children. Athletes train through pain. Artists spend years creating something nobody may ever see. Meaning changes everything. Without meaning, even small tasks feel unbearable. With meaning, people survive things they never thought possible, and that's where modern life becomes dangerous. Not because it's difficult, because it's distracting. It constantly pulls your attention away from the things that make life feel meaningful. Relationships, curiosity, growth, connection, wonder. Instead, it trains you to chase stimulation. And stimulation is not the same thing as fulfillment. One is exciting. The other is nourishing. One gives you a hit, the other gives you a reason. Most people spend years confusing the two, which leads to a disturbing cycle. The more empty they feel, the more stimulation they seek, the more stimulation they consume, the emptier they become. Another video, another scroll, another purchase, another distraction. And yet, the feeling remains. Because the problem was never a lack of stimulation. It was a lack of presence, a lack of connection, a lack of meaning. Now here's the twist. The feeling that you're tired of existing might not be a sign that something is wrong with you. It might be a sign that something inside you is refusing to keep living on autopilot. Think about that. What if this exhaustion isn't your enemy? What if it's a message, a signal, a warning light, a part of you saying, this isn't sustainable? Not because life is hopeless, because something needs to change. Maybe your pace, maybe your priorities, maybe the endless pressure to constantly become more. Because somewhere along the way, many people started treating life like a project, always improving, always optimizing, always chasing the next version of themselves. But what if the next version isn't the answer? What if the answer is reconnecting with the version that's already here? The version that doesn't need an audience, doesn't need validation, doesn't need constant distraction. The version that remembers how to simply experience life. Because maybe you're not tired of existing. Maybe you're tired of existing in a way that doesn't feel alive. And those are two very different problems. One means something is wrong with you. The other means something is trying to wake you up. And that realization might change everything.